now. Okay, perfect. Monday morning, gentle yoga. Just get the technological side of things set up and we'll be ready to start. Okay. Super. Good. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's find a comfortable seat. So we're going to spend a few moments just to connect inwardly with our breath and get grounded coming into our space. Really starting to feel aware of sensation in the body and bringing the awareness inward. So feel your seat heavy, grounded, rooted. And feel a beautiful lift upward through the spinal column. You can either cross the legs in seated easy pose, or if you cross the shins, or taking the legs out in front of you. Really finding a position that you can sit for a few minutes and feel comfortable. Allowing yourself to really focus inwardly. And if there's too much distraction, if there's a discomfort that's nagging at you, it perhaps takes away the opportunity to maintain that inner connected feeling, that inner focus. If all of the focus is going to a sense of discomfort or pain, just adjust your position to ensure that you can keep bringing the awareness inward. So as you keep feeling the sits bones rooted down, a beautiful upward lift through the spinal column, chin parallel with the floor. Let the shoulders relax away from their ears. So we'll spend a few minutes here in a comfortable seat, bringing the awareness to the breath. The lips are gently touching. It's not any sort of clenching of the jaw. Just let the lips gently touch. And very gently resting the tip of the tongue near the top of the upper teeth. And this is a very useful way of holding the tongue to start incorporating the Ujjayi breath, which is one of the breathing patterns that's very effective in a yoga practice. And not only while we might sit and focus inward, meditate, but also in the physical aspects of our practice. So there's a small gentle constriction near the back of the throat if you want to practice the Ujjayi breath. You inhale through the nose, and as you exhale, the air will pass out the nose as your lips are gently touching together. But feel as if it's a somewhat slightly more forceful exhale than a natural pace, almost like you're trying to fog up a mirror. If you've ever experienced a mirror that's fogged over and you breathe on it. So we're doing this sort of exhale, but rather than it coming out the mouth with the lips together and the tongue gently pressing at the back of the upper teeth, the breath then exhales through the nasal passage. In doing this, you start to observe a ocean sounding breath. This is the ujjayi. Both the inhale and exhale starts to sound like the rhythm of the ocean waves. So you can give it a try, and if it's part of your normal practice, feel free to incorporate it during the physical aspects of our practice. And if it's new to you and you're just trying it out and it doesn't feel quite suitable, then feel free to shift it any other breathing technique or just to your natural breath pace. Next, let's go ahead and bring our palms pressing together, bringing the thumbs toward heart center here, Anjali Mudra. And observe the effect that the breath has on the body. So noticing on the inhale as the chest slightly lifts, there's an outward pressing as the expansion of the chest opens and presses into the thumbs. On an exhale, there's a slight retraction and receding. Excellent. And now as you allow the palms to come back down onto the thighs, we're just going to start making some small circular movements here just to start warming up the spinal column, perhaps the hips, just small gentle motions here, rocking in a circular motion on the pelvis. And start moving now in the opposite direction if you haven't begun to do so. Just a few cycles in a smaller circular position to start. And eventually as you come back to neutral on the sits bone, sitting somewhat upright. Now, with the palms resting on the thighs, we'll start to come a little more deeply here. So as you come around in these circular movements here, pressing the palms into the thighs, notice how there's some movement in the shoulders, a little movement in the head, undulating the spine, coming a little more deeply. If you're feeling tight or just wanting to move slowly in smaller movements today, then keep it similar to what we started with. Otherwise, you can start really feeling more movement and more undulation of the spine here. And we'll then start to move in the opposite direction. We'll go about equal amount of circular motions in each direction. And now as you come back to center, we're going to start to come into a forward fold at the hip crease. And we really want to ensure we protect our low back by imagine we're elongating the spine upward. So we're extending forward. So you can take the hands out in front of you, walking on tented fingers, start to lead with the sternum, elongate the spine. If you start to feel any tightness or tension in the low back, just stop there and in fact even back up a little bit. If you have space to keep elongating the spine forward and coming down toward the forearms, some people may actually be able to come into placing the forehead right on the ground, or if it doesn't quite reach, maybe stacked fists or a block. And of course, for some, maybe you're feeling a little tightness or tension in the low back here and just sitting more upright, the head nowhere near the ground. Really, it's about coming to a space that feels good for your body here. On tented fingers, we're going to start to walk ourselves back upright. And now taking the hands behind us, you can choose either to have the fingertips facing forward or backward, whatever feels best for your shoulders. And we'll rock the pelvis slightly forward as we lift the sternum toward the ceiling, slightly lowering the head back. Don't let it collapse. We really want to protect our neck here. So sort of gazing directly up to the ceiling. Again, lifting the torso out of the pelvis. And as you rock back onto the sits bones, coming upright, we'll come forward once again, walk the hands forward, slowly walking forward. Do whatever level feels comforting and supportive for you. Keep breathing here. If you're incorporating that ujjayi breath, really observe that ocean sound. And we'll walk on this tented fingers, spider tip fingers to come back upright. Again, take the hands behind the back, pressing tented fingers into the ground. Lift the sternum to the ceiling, gently lowering the head back, gazing up, rocking forward on the pelvis. And then coming back to neutral, sitting on the sits bones. So whether you're using the ujjayi breath or not, always bringing that awareness back to the breath, noticing the breath. It's an excellent tool to continually anchor back into the present moment. So throughout our practice, throughout life, because our practice on the mat is just a microcosm of our life, when we feel like we're getting distracted by thoughts, taking us away from being present, just bring awareness to whatever breathing technique you're using. My teacher's teacher said a couple of years ago on a Skype call I was on that we can only breathe in the present moment. It's, of course, so basic. Of course, we all understand this, but to hear it and remind ourselves, breathing only happens now. So focus the awareness on the breath and it instantly anchors us into the present moment when our mind gets distracted by thoughts from the past and thoughts from the future. We can't breathe in the past, we can't breathe in the future. We focus on the breath, instantly anchors us in. Remembering the Yoga Sutras tell us that is the point of yoga. How is this different than a stretching class? It's being in the present moment, focusing on the breath. It's such a beautiful tool. So we're going to come down onto our backs today to start. So we're going to be doing a reclined pigeon pose, a little bit of work for the hip flexor. So as you lower right down onto your back, the knees are bent, soles of the feet flat on the ground. So keeping the sole of the right foot on the ground, we're going to take the left foot off the ground and cross it toward like a figure 4 shape. If you want to have a quick look ahead visually here. So rather than a deep leg cross like you might do in a seat with the knees near each other here, the outside of the left ankle just above the right knee, or resting on the low side of the right quadricep. So with the palm of the left palm, gently pressing the left onto the left inner thigh and opening the left hip here. Gently pressing it away, noticing some activation now in the hip flexor. The upper back shoulders, the occipital ridge resting on the mat as you're pressing and gently opening that hip. Now, you can either maintain this for several more breaths, or if there's space available to you to do so, you can reach the left hand in between the two thighs, the right hand on the outside of the right thigh, take the right foot off the mat, and bring the hands behind the right thigh. Another option, if you want to bend the right knee deeply, is to bring the hands right around to the front of the right shin. Just observe the more further you go in this path, the more sensation you're going to feel in your left hip flexors. So if it's too much sensation, release the shin and come back to the thigh. If that's too much sensation, put the foot on the ground and just open the hip flexor by pressing on the inner left thigh. If you have taken the hands around the leg and you want even more sensation, you can always lift the head off the mat and bring the nose toward the right knee. And now if you've done that, lower the head and everyone releasing the leg. And we'll go ahead and uncross the leg here. Rest the left foot on the ground, both feet resting on the ground here. Just observe if you feel different sensation from one hip to the other. Some people we really notice, I'm one of those people, I really notice a difference, and others not so much. But just take the moment to observe what you are feeling right now. Let's repeat this on the opposite side, taking the right foot off the ground, cross the right, outside the right ankle, just above the left thigh, above the left knee. Now taking the right palm and gently pressing on the inside of the right thigh, just to open up that hip. Excuse me. Breathing here. And again, we'll hold here for several more breaths, or take the right arm between the legs, the left arm on the outside of the left leg, either grab the back of the left thigh or the front of the left shin, either resting the head or raising it up, bringing the nose toward the left knee. A great opportunity to remind ourselves that we go to our point of what we call the edge, the space between where you feel some sensation. So we want to challenge ourselves a little bit, but not pushing ourselves to the point of struggle. If you've raised the head, go ahead and lower it down. If you've got the foot off the ground, go ahead and bring it back down, release the leg. Uncross the right leg, bring both soles of the feet flat on the ground again. Now we're going to take the arms out away from the body in a T formation and just slowly start to move, windshield wiper the legs, move the leg legs one side to the other, dropping the knees. Now you may have your feet fairly close together, knees fairly close together, and that might feel all right for you. If you feel a little bit in the low back here, sometimes it can be nice to take the feet to the outside edges of the mat, so they're quite a bit wider apart, and lowering them this way. A little bit less of a spinal twist here, so if you're ever feeling low sensation in the low back, you can actually even just keep the knees higher up. Beautiful. And then we'll go ahead and stretch legs directly out in front of us. Let's go ahead and take the arms along the floor overhead, and a big stretch, like you're awakening from a sleep. Really feel a long line through the whole body. And then we're going to roll onto the right side of our body. So the right arm is stretched out overhead. And then we're going to take the upper leg, the left leg, we're going to bend it at the knee, take the left hand and bring it around the front of the left foot, the shoelaces. Now, if this isn't quite available to you, if you've got clothing on, you can grab on there. Or if you're just not able to reach the leg, just keep the bend and move the left heel in the direction of the left buttock. If you are able to grab it, just pulling it in the heel toward the buttock as you keep the upper part of the thigh bone perpendicular. Beautiful. You can rest the head on the outstretched right arm and perhaps even bend it at the elbow and sort of make a little pillow of it to rest the head. You're doing a little bit of work here, stretching on the front of the left quadricep. Now, as you release that foot, we're going to go ahead and roll a little bit more onto the right shoulder and take the left foot behind you, placing it on the ground. Noticing a little more activation in the hip flexor here. If it's too intense, excuse me, if it's too intense, just roll more back onto the right hand side. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to move to the opposite side. So straighten out the left leg, roll right across the abdomen, the belly, right over into the left hand side. Again, option to bend that left arm and then use the left arm like a pillow. As you bend the right knee, bring the right heel toward the right buttock. And if it's available to you, take the hand around the shoelace side of the foot. Breathe in here. Now again, releasing the right foot. Go ahead and roll slightly further back and bring the sole of the right foot onto the ground here. You might just notice it giving a little bit more activation in that hip flexor on the right side. And once more, we'll roll back onto the left side. and just bend the knees, coming in sort of toward a fetal position. This is so we can more easily transition to come up toward seated. And once you find your way in seated, you'll find your way towards standing in whichever method you use. Many traditions just roll over across legs and coming up towards standing. As we find ourselves at the front of our mat in a mountain pose, so standing rooted down in the four corners of each foot. Feel a lift right up through the spinal column, out through the crown of the head. Keep the chin parallel with the floor. Do a little bit of breath work here. So we're going to inhale the arms out to the side, turn the palms up, lift them up overhead. reach and extend. Rotate at the shoulders, palms face out, bring the arms down to the side and back to heart center. 3 more cycles like this, really allowing that breath to flow. Inhale the arms out and overhead. Exhale, start to lower them down as you reach and extend them to the side walls, bringing them back to heart center. Last time now. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to come toward a little bit of warrior poses today. So standing at the front of your mat in mountain pose, as you root down through your right foot, we're going to take the left foot back behind us, turn it out at a 45-degree angle. Find a distance that is one that you challenge yourself a little without going beyond your comfort level. And as you bend the forward knee, ensuring that that knee doesn't come ahead of the forward ankle, put more weight on the outer edge of the back foot, torso is parallel to the floor. Inhale the arms out to the side. Soft, gentle gaze over the forward middle finger here. Feeling strong and steady. Warrior pose, warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. And make sure we're not rooting into the toes on the forward foot. We really want to ensure the weight is squarely balanced on the big toe mound, little toe mound, inside and outside edges of the heel, the shin bone perpendicular to the floor. Let's come to exalted warrior. Rotate the forward palm, raise it up overhead. Drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Either look directly forward to and parallel the floor, or turn the gaze up to the raised hand. And we'll bring our arms back down to warrior 2. And coming to warrior side angle. Let's just rest the palm on the thigh and take the left arm up overhead. Open this shoulder, the left shoulder, to the wall behind you. If there's space available to maintain that openness in the shoulder, you can bend the right elbow and rest it on the thigh. If doing that causes the left shoulder to come a bit forward, just come back up, lift up higher and just rest the palm on the thigh. You can bring the arm alongside the ear, so you have a long line running from the back of the right foot out the, left foot, out the left fingertips. And we'll lift back up, come back to warrior 2. And preparing for triangle, straighten the forward leg. Now you might want to close the gap a little bit and bring the legs closer together, perhaps. And we're going to reach forward with the right fingertips. Rotate the palms and lower the forward arm, the back of the right hand to the inside of the forward leg, raising the other arm overhead. Really reach and expand. Reach the fingertips to the ceiling and the other fingertips down to the floor. Feeling a broadness through the front side of the chest. And the exit is to lift from the upper fingertips to bring ourselves back up. And we'll turn the right foot to the long edge of the mat, both feet facing the long edge of the mat now, lowering the hands down to the hips. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and turn the left foot to the back edge of the mat. Take the arms out again at shoulder height. Bend that left leg to come down to warrior 2 on the opposite side. Make sure that the torso remains perpendicular to the floor, so if there's a tendency for it to lean one direction forward or back, see if you can bring it more to center. Exalted warrior, rotate that forward palm, raise that arm overhead, drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Remember to squarely root through that forward foot, but more weight on the outer edge of the back foot. And we'll bring the arms back to warrior two. Preparing for warrior side angle. Again, either rest the palm on the thigh or the bent elbow. Raise the other arm overhead to start, to just check you're opening that shoulder to the wall behind you. And then you can bring it alongside the ear if you choose. And as we windmill the arms back to warrior two, hold here for breath. And then preparing for triangle, Trikonasana, straighten that forward leg, reach forward with the forward fingertips, rotate the palms, lowering the back of the left hand to the inside of the left leg, raise that right arm up overhead. Reach and extend the fingertips in opposite direction. And then lifting from the upper fingertips to come back out and arms out at shoulder height. Let's go ahead and turn the left foot to the long edge of the mat. 5-pointed star here. Toes might be slightly more pointed in than directly forward. So we'll come into a hanging forward fold, or think more extension than fold. Let's bring the hands down to the hip crease. So we want to really root through the feet here. They're slightly turned in. There's always an option here to bend the knees if that's better, if you have tight hamstrings or feeling sensation in the low back. And we're going to fold at the hip crease. So as I turn to the long side, just for demonstrating here, we start to lead forward with the sternum, folding at the hip crease, and we're going to pause when we come parallel to the floor. So torso parallel with the floor. You root through the soles of the feet. You feel a long line through the spine. Crown of the head is reaching forward to the wall ahead of you. Sits bones reaching to the wall behind you. And as you start to fold more deeply forward, moving in the direction of the crown of the head coming toward the floor, you can let the hands slide down the legs. For some, they might only come partway down. If they do reach the ground, you can either bring the wrists around the ankles or maybe peace fingers around the big toes. And keep moving in the direction of the crown of the head coming toward the mat. And we're going to make our way. You can either bring the hands back up to the hips and slowly lift back upright, or pressing the fingertips into the mat, you can walk the feet in a little closer. Heel toe the feet, bend the knees, then bring the hands to the hips and lift up to standing. Beautiful. Coming toward the front of the mat. So we're going to incorporate a little bit of swan dive with sun salutation. So a little bit like the breath work we did earlier, but following bringing the arms up overhead, as we take them back to the side, we're going to swan dive. So I'll just demonstrate briefly here. As the arms come up overhead, swan dive, lead with the sternum to come into a hanging forward fold. And again, you can always bend the knees if there's tight hamstrings or low back. And then in the hanging forward fold, we're going to inhale for halfway lift or diver's pose. So we want to have a straight spine here, kind of like we just did in our wide-legged forward fold where we pause perpendicular to the floor. So for many, the palms come part way at the shins. And on the exhale again, coming into a hanging forward fold. In the reverse swan dive, we bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around and bring them up overhead. Beautiful. So we're going to do several cycles of those. Let's stand at the front of the mat in mountain pose. We'll bring the hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Let's go ahead and circle the arms around, up overhead. As you bring them out to the side, come toward a swan dive now. Coming into a hanging forward fold. Fingertips are coming down in the direction of the toes. We're going to inhale for halfway lift, straight spine here. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Reverse swan dive is to bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms as you press through the legs to rise up to standing, hands overhead and down to heart center. 4 more times here. Circle the arms around. Coming into a swan dive here. Fingertips toward the toes. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Reverse swan dive, bend the knees, root through the feet. Rise up to standing, arms overhead and down to heart center. Pause here for a breath. Circle the arms around 3 more times. Coming down into a swan dive here. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Bend the knees, root to rise, lift to standing, arms overhead, down to heart center. Inhale and exhale. Circle the arms around. 2 more. Swan dive here. Halfway lift. Hanging forward fold. Reverse swan dive. Hands to heart center. Anjali Mudra. And last time, circle the arms around. Coming into a swan dive here. Lift to halfway point, diver's pose. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Root to rise, bend the knees, circle the arms overhead. And we come back to Samastatihi with hands at Anjali Mudra. Pause here. Second half of the pose, turning the attention inward, focusing on the breath. And releasing the hands. We're going to come toward a standing balance pose here with standing head to knee. Well, we'll do modification of that. But rooting down through the 4 corners of your left foot. Now feel free to come to a wall and rest one hand on the wall if that feels more comfortable for you. We'll lift on the tiptoes of the right foot as you slightly bend the right knee. And lifting that foot off the ground as high as you're able to. So for some of you, maybe only an inch or so. That's fine. If you're able to raise it right up toward 90-degree angle, the thigh bone is perpendicular to the floor. Holding here, activate the muscles of the standing leg by hugging them to the bone, keeping a micro bend in the knee. And there's an option to bring the palms around the shins here. But see that it's not at the expense of keeping the torso upright and erect. If by grabbing the leg I start hunching my back, then I'll let it go and feel that upright trend through the spinal column. Again, if you're able to grab the shin and still maintain that upward standing, feel free to do so. So as you're facing the front of the mat now, you can release the left hand. The right hand is on the thigh. You start to open the right leg out to the side, toward 90-degree angle. Like in archery, that's sort of like a gate pose where you're bringing it out to the side. Option to take the left arm out away from you. Option to turn the gaze over the left outstretched hand. And we'll bring that arm back in, the leg back in, go ahead and release it down. And just move in any way that brings a sense of ease. You might feel that in the hip flexor, maybe in the piriformis, maybe some other area. We're all unique, so just observe how it feels different from one side to the other, perhaps. And prepare for the opposite side. Rooting down through the right foot, tiptoes of the left foot. We'll lift that foot off the ground as high as you're able. It comes up to perpendicular. Option to bring the hands around the shin. As you release the right hand, you can take it out toward the side as you open the left leg out toward the left hand side. Utilizing a drishti is very useful to maintain focus, concentration here. And bring that leg back in, the arm back in, go ahead and release it, and just shaking out in any way that feels comforting. Beautiful. Let's come again to another standing balance pose, Vrikshasana. So the standing balance poses are so crucial to maintaining our bone density, to maintaining muscle strength. So let's go ahead and root through the right foot, come on the tiptoes of the left foot, and again open that hip out to the side. So we're coming toward a 90-degree angle. And then bringing that left foot off the ground. If that feels appropriate for you today, you can take the sole of the foot to the calf or the inner thigh. If the sole of the foot's resting on the leg, and you're really feeling that adduction inward as they press against each other. Again, noticing how that activates the hip flexors more. The hands might come to heart center at Anjali Mudra, or maybe along the ears like branches of a tree. Or maybe into temple, whatever feels appropriate. And micro bend in the standing leg, in the knee. We never want to lock out our joints. Ensure you're keeping that openness in the hips. Hugging the muscles of the right leg around the bones. Go ahead and release the hands. Release the leg and move in any way that feels supportive. Move to the opposite side, root down through the left foot, tiptoes of the right foot, open that leg out to the side. Heel is just above the ankle here. Hugging the muscles of the left leg around the bones. And option to take the foot off the ground, rest the sole of the foot, calf or thigh. Adduction here as you press those in against one another. And allow the hands to come where they are called. Maybe heart center, Anjali Mudra, branches of a tree, or temple. Excellent, excellent. Keeping those hips open. Feeling that upward lift through the entire spinal column. Go ahead and release the hands, release the leg, and shake it out. Beautiful. So we're going to come toward a chair pose and then a chair twist with a prayer twist, or if you're able to come down that deep, or I'll give a variation as well for those that aren't able. So as you keep your feet either hip width apart, or if you're used to practicing them together, that's your option. So as we come toward a chair pose, you want to sink the sits bones going back. Make sure you keep some neutrality in the spinal column, neither arching or curving the back. Inhale the arms out in front of you at shoulder height, palms facing one another. Have a glance down at the toes. Make sure you can see your toes. And if not, take the hips further back. And then we can raise the arms alongside the ears if you want additional heat. That's just an option here. You're welcome to keep them out at shoulder height if that's more suitable today for you. And then root through the feet, rise up to standing, bring the hands to heart center. Now for our revolved prayer twist from chair pose, we will want to bring the feet together here. So you're going to bring the feet and knees together. Hands are still at heart center here. So as we sink back into our chair with our hands at heart center, we can come toward a revolved prayer. So you take the left elbow to the outside of the right leg, but make sure the hips stay squared off and press the palms together. Now the variation for this is just to take the left palm to the outside of the right thigh and take the right palm to the small of the back here. So you're getting that twist in the torso, keeping the hips squared off. Breathe. And we'll rise up to standing, hands at heart center. Breathe here. Maybe you're feeling some strong sensation in the thighs. And we'll repeat on the opposite side as you lower down into a chair with the hands at heart center. And revolve prayer. So this time, the right elbow outside of the left thigh, palms together, left elbow up to the ceiling. Or modification, right palm on the left thigh, left hand on the small of the back. Again, turning the torso. Keep breathing. And rise to standing, hands at heart center. You can let the hands come down alongside the body. And second half of the pose, turn the attention inward here, focusing on the breath. Check in with the state of the mind. Just observe if thoughts have been coming and going, letting them just pass by. So avoiding the temptation of attaching to a thought or identifying with a thought. We talk about in the Yoga Sutras that by stilling the busyness of the mind, and that doesn't mean stopping the thoughts, it means not anchoring onto them, we then experience our true nature. Beautiful. Excellent. Let's go ahead and move back down toward the mat. So find your way down to seated once more. And we'll come into another variation of a twist. So we want to rock the sits bones back to take the flesh out from underneath them. And the legs are stretched out in front of us. Sitting up tall on the sits bones, elongating the spine. We're going to cross the right leg and bring the sole of the right foot onto the ground, the outside of the right ankle just on the outside of the left thigh, just above the knee. For some of us, you might find it's easier to pull some flesh away from the abdomen. We're going to take the left palm around the left upper shin or near the knee. For some, maybe the elbow pit is accessible to you, and you can bend the elbow at more of a 90-degree angle and bring that space into the elbow pit. And whichever you take the right arm directly out ahead of you at shoulder height. Start to take it around at shoulder height, out to the right-hand side, going toward the wall behind you, until it goes no further. Then let the hand come down to the mat. Perhaps the palm is flat on the mat, or perhaps you're resting on tented fingers. Root through that hand to give additional lift to the spinal column. The forward left outstretched leg is active, hugging the muscles to the bone, dorsiflexion in the foot. So you can either maintain holding the front side of the left leg, or if you want a little bit deeper stretch in the spine, you release the hand and bring the outside of the left upper arm to the outside of the right thigh. This just gives a little bit deeper twist here. Just an option here for you. Perfectly fine to maintain the hand or elbow pit on the right thigh, shin. We'll go ahead and take the right hand off the ground, bring it back around in front. And we'll go ahead and uncross the legs and move to the opposite side. So again, the right leg now stretched out in front of you, activating the muscles, hugging into the bone, dorsiflexion. Cross the left leg over top of the right, sole left foot on the ground. Again, you can walk some flush from the abdomen to really make a firm connection with the abdomen against the inner part of the left leg. Again, either take the right palm or right elbow pit around the left shin. Take the left arm out in front of you. Start to take it out to the left-hand side at shoulder height. Keep going until it goes no further. Once it won't go any further, let it come down to the mat. And again, pressing down through that hand to give it a lift through the spine. You can give a soft, gentle gaze out the corner of the left eyeball socket. Keep breathing here. And as you take the left arm off the mat, bringing it back around in front, uncross the legs. And we'll just go ahead and shake them out a little bit, or actually just let them fall side to side, or rotating the wrists up the ankles. The wrist might be resting on the mat with the palms behind you. Okay, beautiful. Okay, and now we're moving down onto our back as we come down flat onto the mat once again, similar to one of our first poses here, but with the knees bent, soles of the feet flat on the ground. Keeping the feet hip width apart, keep the arms alongside the body, palms facing down, fingertips are going in the direction of the heels. We're going to prepare for a bridge pose here. So just rock the pelvis toward the wall behind your head to notice that spine fully flush with the mat. And as you root through the feet and upper shoulders and back, start to lift the hips up toward the ceiling and slightly forward toward the wall in front of you. Keep lifting the hips higher. If you find this a challenge and you're really feeling like you're sinking in the pelvis, you can actually bring the hands around the waist and pressing through the elbows, start to lift up onto the shoulder heads to see if you can lift the hips a little bit higher. As with any practice, you're in the driver's seat and you can come out whenever you want. We'll come into bridge a second time momentarily, but for now, hold if you're able. If you're holding onto the weights, go ahead and release it. We'll slowly lower the vertebra one at a time back down to the mat. And resting here, focusing on the breath. Again, with the arms alongside the body, palms facing down, preparing for a second bridge here. Root through the feet, root through the upper back and shoulders. Remember not to move the head side to side. Lift the hips up to the ceiling here. So there is a very tiny amount of weight or pressure on the back of the head here. So crucial not to move the head. It's really not going to do any favors to the neck. If you have to look somewhere, come out of the pose and take any weight off the back of the head before turning the head. Again, you can either bring the palms around the waist and lift it higher, or if you're able to roll onto your shoulder heads and want to come to Yoga Mudra, interlacing the hands underneath the spine. Keep lifting the hips higher, activating the adduction flexion inward here. Imagine you had a block between your legs you were trying to squeeze together. Observe how this activates the hip flexors more. So there's a lot of sensation in the hip flexor of near the buttocks, but without clenching the butt cheeks. If you've interlaced in the Yoga Mudra, go ahead and release that. Roll off the shoulder heads. Again, slowly lowering the vertebrae one at a time, taking the sacrum back down to the mat. And once it reaches there, just pause momentarily for a breath or two. And now respond in any way that your body's asking you. Maybe it's windshield wiping the legs. Maybe it's taking the feet off the mat and hugging the knees into the chest. That can sometimes be a nice counter movement for the spine, low back. So part of the idea about listening to what your body's needing is that sense of really connecting with sensation. Your body will guide you and show you the direction it needs to move. Beautiful. So as we come back toward bent knees, soles of the feet flat on the ground. Still lying down on our back. Go ahead and straighten the left leg. We're going to hug the right knee in toward the chest. Left leg straight along the ground. And then we're going to open the right leg out to the side. A little bit like we did in our standing head to knee pose. So open that hip out toward the right hand side with the right hand around it. Now bring it back to center. Now take the left hand to the outside of the right leg. Take the right arm along the ground, stretched out to the right hand side. And bring the right leg across the center line of your body toward the left hand side of the floor. But keep the right shoulder and arm glued to the floor. So a little bit of a twist here. You might turn the gaze to look over the outstretched right hand. And if you have done that, bring the head back to center to begin with. Raise the leg back to center. And go ahead and straighten it out in front of you. With the right leg straight on the ground, take the left leg off the ground and hug the knee in toward the chest. Straight in first. Really feel this in the inner side of the thigh, kind of near where we might think of our lap. And now, with the left hand on the left leg, open it out to the side, opening that inner groin. And bring the leg back to center. Take the right hand to the outside of the left leg. Take the left hand away from the body in a T formation and lower the leg across midline toward the right hand side of the mat. Keep this left shoulder and left arm glued to the mat. There might be a tendency to roll right over and the arm lifts off the mat. Come back down so that the arm is making contact with the mat. Perhaps gazing over the left shoulder. Still focusing on that breath. Bringing the head back to center, resting on the back of the skull, raising the leg back up to center. And let's go ahead and stretch it out in front of us. One more time, big stretch like awakening from a sleep. Take the arms overhead along the ground, legs stretched out in front of you. Almost walking the heels away to really elongate the legs and reach, extend the fingertips here. Oh, just let it go. And as you bring the arms back in alongside the body, so we're just going to roll right over onto the abdomen here. So just a little bit of opening on the front side of the body. As we're laying on our abdomen, we're going to keep the palms down The arms will be bent at 90-degree angles. So now lift the chest and head off the mat. Forearms and palms down. The upper arm bone, the humerus, is perpendicular to the floor. So we're coming up towards Sphinx pose here. So we want to keep pressing our pelvis down, the tops of the thighs, the shoelaces of the feet as the feet splay outward here, and elongate the spinal column forward and up and out of the pelvis. Really crucial for protecting the low back to press down through the pelvis and lift up, forward, torso out of the spine, out of the pelvis. And we'll lower our head back down to the mat. You can rest it on stacked palms. And then just allow the legs to move back and forth side to side. And we'll come up again to another Sphinx pose. So unlike Cobra, where the arms are back and bent, the elbows bent, here the 90-degree angle, upper arm bone perpendicular to the floor. So again, press down through the palms, press down through the pelvis, the upper legs, the shoelaces of the feet, and elongate the spinal column. And lowering the head down again, you can rest it on stacked palms. And maybe just let the legs relax by splaying outward here. And then as you bring the palms under the shoulders, press back. We'll come to child's pose momentarily. Sink the buttocks back to the heels. And lowering the forehead down to the mat. Remembering in child's pose, you can either keep the knees together or take the knees wide to the outside edges of the mat, but keep the big toes touching. And last few movements for our spine here as we lift out of child's pose, coming up to tabletop. Just a few cat and cows as we extend and stretch the spinal column. So exhale, coming to cat, tuck the chin, lift the spine high. Inhale, soften the belly, chin off the chest, rock the pelvis back, cow pose. Couple times here. Beautiful. So just another 30 seconds or so before we move to Shavasana. So if your body's requesting any last movement from you before coming to final resting pose, just spend the next few moments here responding to that. And if you're feeling complete already, we'll move towards Shavasana. So you can come down onto the back and come toward Shavasana. So if you're laying flat on the back, remember the legs are stretched out in front of you, arms alongside the body, and modify as needed. So in any given day, if you're feeling some tightness in the low back, you can bend the knees, rest the soles of the feet flat on the ground. Pelvis shifts a bit and creates a greater sense of ease in the low back. Or perhaps resting the legs on a pillow or bolster if you have one in your home is a lovely way. If you have the legs stretched out in front of you, let the feet splay outward here. Keep the arms alongside the body, but about 15 degrees off center. Rest on the back of the hand, palms facing up. If you notice the head is collapsing backwards, if you're resting on the back of the skull, maybe just lift it temporarily and elongate the back of the neck, lower it down, and rest on the occipital ridge of the skull now. So essentially, if the eyes were open, you're looking directly up to the ceiling. Of course, in Shavasana, we want to close the eyes to minimize external distractions. Another reason we rest the hands on the back of the hand, again, just to minimize the external senses. Scan your awareness through the body. Observe if you are still holding any area, still clenching, still tensing. Is there an opportunity to invite a greater sense of relaxation, rest, openness, expansion, just letting go? Sink into the ground. Almost feel like a heavy weight. Imagine if you were on a sandy beach, how you might feel the impression of the body sinking into the sand and shifting the sand here. So just allow that weight of the body just to collapse. Allow the breathing pattern to return to normal. If you incorporated any special technique or the Ujjayi breath here, just let the natural ebb and flow of your breath come forward at this point. Maintain the focused awareness either on the breath or perhaps at the third eye. Feel a sense of calmness and serenity, a sense of ease. making some small movements here just to reawaken the body. Maybe wiggle the fingers and toes. Starting to move in any way that reinvigorates. And one big stretch again. Take the arms along the ground overhead. Long line through the whole body as you stretch the arms and legs in opposite direction. And now as you bring the knees in toward the chest, wrapping the arms around the shins, hugging the knees, gentle rocking side to side. And now rolling to the right hand side in a fetal position. And then stretching out your upper leg, pressing in the upper hand, bringing yourself to an upright seated position. And we'll find a comfortable seat. Now let's rest the hands on the heart center. So rest the right palm at the heart center on the sternum, left palm directly on the back of the right hand. Perhaps feeling the heartbeat, but certainly being aware of the breath on the inhale, raising the chest outward. And the exhale, receding here. The heart center is, perhaps not coincidentally, the area viewed as being the seat of our love and compassion, our sense of kindness. That's where we hold our gratitude. Virtually every culture has viewed this as being the area of the body that these emotions and feelings are held. One of the beautiful things about yoga is the opportunity to cultivate a sense of compassion in our practice. I'm going to share one passage from the Yoga Sutras, perhaps one of the most beautiful many find. It is the 33rd stanza of the first book. I'll read the Sanskrit. I think it's lovely in Sanskrit, and then I'll give the translation here. Maitra karuna mudite upekshanam sukha dukkha punya apunya vishanayam bhavanata chitta prasadanam. It is through the cultivation of compassion, of joy, of friendliness, and also to indifference or non-attachment to either pleasure or pain, to virtue or vice, that we become favorably disposed in our consciousness. So it is a practice to maintain that sense of cultivating compassion for ourselves, for others. May your heart feel full and overflowing, now and always. Delight in me acknowledges and bows to the light in you. Jai Bhagwan and Namaste. you for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you here every Monday at 9:30 and Fridays at 9:30 for Half a Flow if you're free as well. So thanks to those of you on Zoom and those on Facebook. Take care.